la la. Here I go. Let's see. Let me turn down some of the stuff. Video settings. Extras. You know what? I need to see my coordinates in case I die. Because I've died quite a bit. Hey, welcome. Welcome, welcome, welcome. This is a random, like, stream. I'm trying to get away from my cats, because, like, I can't, right? Well, not my cat, both my cats, just one cat. I have this dude cat. I can't, like, I didn't want him to begin with, and I'm stuck with him. And, yeah, he's, like, really annoying. He's wrecking my furniture right now. I hear him scratching up the chair. And he does it because he knows I'm streaming, so he knows I'm in the middle of something, and he can get away with it. It sucks. It's terrible. Okay, so I was testing out stuff, just testing it out, right? I wanted to test it out because there's been a whole bunch of new changes and whatnot, and I just wanted to see what's possible with this new stuff. Turns out not a whole lot. There's just not a whole lot for Java Minecraft. Like all that good stuff is like for DirectX, like Microsoft stuff. Not so much for open source. I guess it's open source, so if you want to implement it, you can. Maybe there might be a modder, but like, dude, that's like a crazy project. How do you mod in stuff? Rethinking voxel. Why isn't this putting out light? Integrated. Materials. Integrated. Oh, that's why. Why would all that be off, dude? That just... Okay. Ta-da! I love that glowing redstone, and it makes the neat shadows. It's pretty dark right here. Alright. See, man, this is what I dig about the Rethinking Voxels Beta 18.D, or 18D. What I dig about it are the sharp shadows, the way it makes these sharp, and I dig the red colored, or like, yeah, the colored lighting. It's pretty cool. And I dig just the shadows. That's what makes it neat, unique, are the sharp shadows. Then you when you do the Alpha 6, you lose the sharp shadows. Well, it's Alpha, okay. I'll give you that. But you see, it's still there, but barely. You could barely see it. And it's yeah, it runs like nice. This is the alpha, but like something's off. It's not quite right yet. It's not there yet. Like look at the carpet, doesn't like have any light to it. I don't know. Not quite right. But the Beta 18D is great. Also, no matter what, even okay, so Continuity decided, like, updated their deal to 1.20.2, but I can't get Optifine emissives to work in Fabric. Sound just like dip out for a second. It went, and then like, man, all this stuff. What else could go wrong? Anyways, yeah, look at this Enderman poop. That's Enderman poop. So that's right. I was gonna go get a diamond pickaxe to turn into a netherite pickaxe because I lost mine. Because I was flying around and I crashed and I died and I couldn't find it. And so it's gone. And I'm sad. I have to go build a new one. Or not build a new one, but make a new one, and that sucks. So, anyways, some historic thing happened today. Historic thing. What's this historic thing? Historic things happen every day, man. Yeah, we live in historic times. So, well, what's the latest historic thing to happen? Well, not Paul Ryan. What's his name? Kevin McCarthy. Kevin McCarthy was fired as Speaker of the House. He was fired. He was fired because all the Democrats and like 10 Republicans voted to kick him out. You're like, wait a minute. How did he even get a vote? Like, none of the majority of Republicans wanted to keep him. Do you get that? A majority of Republicans wanted to keep him, but this tiny group allied with the Democrats, and Kevin McCarthy said, "Okay, you can have your vote." And these Republicans sided with the Democrats to kick out Kevin McCarthy, and now we don't have a speaker. And now the House is adjourned till Tuesday. Kevin McCarthy was a terrible speaker. He should have never been there. The only reason why he was even there to begin with was because he made bad deals. They cheated, right? And they cheated to get majority in the House. Not Kevin Santos. What's his name? What's all this shit? What is all that? Huh? Oh, comparator readings, I guess. Okay, anyways. George Santos is like indicted and out on bail. Some mysterious benefactor paid his bail because who signed the bail were his uncle or something, his family members, but they don't have enough money by themselves to do it. Someone had to front them the money in order to do it. So who's that group that fronted his family the money to bail him out? We don't know, but now he's on bail. So incidentally, you know how there's that dirty Democrat, what's his name, Bobby Menendez? He got indicted. He was indicted by the Justice Department. What did Bobby Menendez do? He took a bribe from a foreign government in exchange for favorable U.S. policy. All the Democrats are calling on him to resign. No Republicans are calling on Bobby Menendez, a Democrat, to resign. Why? Why are no Republicans calling on Bobby Menendez to resign? Because their guy, Donald Trump, also negotiated with a foreign government for personal gain in exchange for U.S. policy. He did this. Donald Trump did the same thing. That's why no Republican will call for Bobby Menendez to be to resign, because their guy did the same thing. And right now they have an indicted dude in their ranks in the form of George Santos. In fact, the only reason why Kevin McCarthy is Speaker is because George Santos cast a vote for Kevin McCarthy. Because they held on by a bare majority onto the House. Well, actually, it wasn't a bare majority. It was the same majority that Pelosi had with the Democrats. Except Pelosi never had this kind of drama. It's ridiculous. Like it's almost perfect that you can see like the reflection. You can see it perfectly between the people who can govern and the people who cannot. The Pelosi and the Democrats had a 5-vote lead, and they got a shit ton of bills passed. These guys are kicking out their Speaker of the House and can't pass like a budget, and are like, oh my gosh, they're like wrecking the American credit rating, and just being a bunch of assholes. That's what they are. They're just a bunch of assholes. Sorry to be a bummer, dude, but like that's what's going on right now in Washington. I mean, it's historic. It's never happened. But like we've had a bunch of historic things. So it's kind of hard, I guess, for people to make sense of like what's going on. because you have no context for it, I guess. But like, because you're like, oh, if historic things are happening all the time, it must not be that historic. No, motherfuckers, it's super historic. That's what I'm saying. It's like breaking down. Things are breaking down. The old forms are breaking down. Like Donald Trump, like we've never had a president try to overthrow the government in a coup. And now Donald Trump is indicted in how many different ways? He just put out a threat to the clerk, the law clerk of the judge that was overseeing his case. And you know what? You know what Donald Trump is? He's a habitual line stepper. He's a line stepper. Habitual line stepper. That's Donald Trump. I'm Donald Trump. That's so funny. That's hilarious, actually. So I'm doing this show today because I had a bunch of stuff I didn't finish the last time because I was like I don't know. I got really into the mind control thing, and I think I got too much into it because like academically it's really interesting, but to the regular person they're like, I don't care about mind control stuff. So I'm like, okay, let me talk about something you might care about, something a little closer to home. So recently, where's it at, man? We had this deal in the Salem Reporter by Ms. Let me hop in there again. Ms. Abby McDonald. Oh, you can't see shit. You still can't see shit because it's all too big. All right, Ms. Abby McDonald. And yeah. So, as you know, well, maybe you don't know, but the big drama right now in the city of Salem, Oregon, is that our city expenditures are outstripping by a lot our revenue. So we have big problems. We had big problems, and we had city of Salem had some fucking massive hits in recent years. Besides COVID, right? That sucked shit. Before COVID, there was a freak ice storm. Like I had never seen anything like it. It was literally an ice storm where water would come down and instantly turn to ice. It's like it would rain and instantly turn to ice. I guess it's sleet. I don't know. It wasn't even sleet. It was just freezing rain. But we got so much of it that like ancient trees all over town broke and they snapped. And they fell when they broke. They fell on power lines, and the whole like fucking city like lost power for fucking days and days and days. Like out in the rurals, they didn't get power back for weeks. It was crazy. It was crazy. Yeah, it was really, really bad. And then before that, we our water supply got tainted by algae. Like, so Salem, Oregon has a water supply up in the hills or something, up in the mountains, and it's just like it's its own lake basically. So cool, right? Cool. A city with its own lake. But the problem was that like one year we had a bunch of algae grew in it, and it released cyanotoxins. And it got so bad that if you drank the water, you got sick. So that meant any business that relied on Salem City water had to shut down. That meant Starbucks. That meant not shut down, but stop using Salem water. So, if you use Salem water like Starbucks did, then you couldn't serve any drinks. You could serve prepackaged drinks, like that was used water from somewhere else, but nothing from local water. So everything, like a bunch of businesses shut down. It sucked. Like they just like if it's not one thing, it's another. So that's just like the normal hits that Salem, the city of Salem, had to take. Then you have to remember the civil unrest, the civil unrest we had during the Trump term, and then during the Trump term, because being the state capital, where do you think all the protesters come? They all come here. I mean, yeah, sure, they go to Portland, rah rah rah, but not really. There's already a bunch of people in Portland. They don't need to go anywhere. Like, what happened in Portland was a bunch of white supremacists from out of town came into Portland on purpose to cause problems. That's what happened. And that's essentially what happened to Salem too. A bunch of white supremacists from out of town came into Salem to like flex their muscle, a lot, a lot, and it just caused problems. And who do you think deals with those problems? The city of Salem. They got to deal with all this influx of stuff. So you would think, great, state capital, it would get help from the state. Nope. City of Salem has been asking for help from the state forever, and they always like never get around to voting on it. They just never get around to it. So the city of Salem now is kind of screwed, because like it has all these expenditures. It has a bunch of positions it can't even fill. Like there's vacancies in the city of Salem Police Department that they can't even fill. They have to budget for it as if it is filled, but there's nothing there. There's no one's actually working there, so the money just sits there. Because they budgeted for it, even though it's not filled. But they can't even get anyone to fill those positions because they don't pay enough. They don't. I don't know why. But the thing is that they just don't have enough money. So they got together and looked at their options. This citizens council got together, looked at the data, looked at the options. It was a lot. They said it was a lot of stuff, and they said, yeah, given the circumstances, they would say the payroll tax is probably the best. I'm like, what? Understand that it's a payroll tax, man. That means if you work in the city of Salem, doesn't matter where you live. You can live in Eugene. You can live in Lebanon. It doesn't matter. You can live in Silverton. It doesn't matter. If you work in Salem, you're gonna get taxed. And it works out to like $50 a year. Which, kind of sucks. Because like a payroll tax is kind of regressive, isn't it? Like you're not hitting the property owners who like own property, right? You're not like tailoring it for the wealthy who are already living fat Like, what's their wealth doing? Just sitting there, like getting wealthier? Like, come on. Kick back a little bit, right? If you're wealthy and you live here. No, instead, they put it on like the people who work. Like, you wouldn't work unless you need the money, man. So they're putting on the people who have like no choice but to work and like better the city than anyways, and you're gonna burden them. So it sucked. It's like a painful sting. It's like, man, that's awful. But the problem is that the can has been kicked down the road for so long. They had, sure, it would have been nice to deal with this like 10 years ago. But they didn't. And so now the need is immediate. The need is immediate. And so immediate needs require like pretty drastic actions. So I don't know how much plagiarism this is to go through this article, but the payroll tax is saying the problem about this whole deal is right here, is this right here. Measures 5 and 47 are having the intended effect of ensuring that resources for local governments do not keep pace with growth or need. All right, well, I think that's really important, right? Because now that tells me that this is a systemic issue. It's not just like, oh well, it's systemic. Something bigger. Not even like, sure, it'd have been nice to deal with it 10 years ago, but we didn't. All right, well, it's still, what's the root of the problem? Like, it's the same root that it was 10 years ago. So we can understand, and that right there is telling you it's measures 5 and 47. Well, I don't know what those are. Like, those were enacted before I even came to this state. So, I did the sensible thing, and I looked up. Well, what are they talking about? All right. So Measure 5 specifically deals with property taxes. Check it out. Ballot Measure 5, initiative passed by Oregon voters in November 1990, fundamentally changed Oregon's property tax and public school funding systems. Like, I wasn't even old enough to vote yet. Come on, guys. Voter approval of Measure 5 and of Measure 47 in 1996 and Measure 50 in 1997 demonstrated the great force of anti-tax fervor in that decade. The resulting restrictions in local school district revenues transformed the funding of Oregon's public school systems to make it primarily dependent on state general revenues controlled by the legislature rather than on local school boards. So, all right. So let me back up here and let's digest what this is saying. Rah, 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 rah. I'm getting all this experience so I can enchant. Fortune 2, not what I need, but it's a start. Yeah, so here. So voter approval of Measure 5 and of Measure 47. Okay, so Measure 5's passage reflects 3 factors. Number 1, an insurgent conservative activism in the state in the 90s. Number 2, great inconsistencies and disparities among local school districts and general voter ignorance of the school funding system. And number 3, the acceleration of housing values and property taxes in the Portland metropolitan area. So basically, okay, I addressed this earlier. So it's a problem that property taxes, that schools are funded by property taxes. In that, rich schools, rich neighborhoods will have higher property taxes and have better schools than poor neighborhoods they'll have like poor schools, right? Literally, because they're funded from the property value of their surrounding neighborhoods. So literally, that's what happens. So you literally reinforce, like you basically perpetuate uh, uneven outcomes by giving more opportunities and privileges to richer schools, by nature of being a rich school, by nature of, like, you basically make you ingrain it into the system, you make it into like the same over time, even worse. All right, so sure. But people hated paying property taxes. They hate paying property taxes. And I guess they thought you could. I guess they thought you could. Like, I don't know. They didn't want to pay property taxes anymore. So they passed this law to say you can't raise property taxes. Here's Oregon Measure 47. The Oregon Property Tax Reduction and Limitation Amendment, known as Measure 47. Let's see. The measure reduced property taxes, limited future property taxes increases, and limited local revenues and replacement fees. Measure 47 required that property taxes be no higher than 10% less than those imposed in the 1994-1995 tax year, or those imposed in the 1995-1996 tax year. Thereafter, property tax increases were to be capped at 3% per year. Measure 47 also instituted a double majority rule requiring at least 50% of voter turnout for any local tax measure in any election beside the general election in an even-numbered year. The measure was placed on the ballot by initiative and was approved by voters in the 5th November 1996 general election. So, essentially what happened is conservatives in the 90s were like, holy shit, property tax, like the property values in the Portland metro area are going up real high. We don't want to pay those, our properties are worth a lot of money, but we don't want to pay these astronomical property taxes on our newly like awesome property. So they passed this law saying you can't raise taxes any higher than 3%. Like per year, despite how the increase in value. So sure, the values of the property may have gone up astronomically, but your revenue derived from it can only go up a little tiny bit. So that gives, so that meant the state or the city is chronically deprived of revenue because they can't cash in when it's fat, but when it's lean, they have to cut everything. And then what did Measure 5 do? Crafted by Don McIntyre and Thomas Dennehy, the anti-tax activists and Measure's chief petitioners, Measure 5 focused on property taxes. It seemingly protected local school funding by requiring state government to compensate school districts for the property tax losses during the phase-in period, during which property taxes were gradually reduced to 1.5% of real market value for local school districts and 1% for all other local government by 1995-1996 budget. Okay, well, why did it only seemingly protect? I should have kept reading. Let me read real quick. Where did this come from? Oregon Encyclopedia, Measure 5, property taxes. Why didn't it work out? Okay, let's see. Hold on. All right. By November 1990, voters. Here, let me get rid of that and get rid of this. By November 1990, voters could not ignore the accelerating property taxes and the instability of the public school funding system, highlighted by temporary school closures in towns like Estacada. In some parts of the Portland metropolitan area, property taxes were as high as $33 per $1,000 value. While there was much disagreement over exactly what should be done across the political spectrum and throughout the state, there was a sense that some sort of reform was inevitable and necessary. Even the liberal weekly newspaper Willamette Week endorsed Measure 5. Despite vigorous opposition by those who feared either the budget consequences or the underlying uncertainty related to the measure, including gubernatorial candidate Barbara Roberts, the Oregon Education Association, and the Associated Oregon Industries, it won 52% of the vote, primarily from Portland area voters. Measure 5 constitutionally limits total non-school property taxes to 1%, which significantly limits local revenue options. The most visible effects of the measure, however, are the limitations of basic local school property taxes to 0.5% and the state's obligation to replace lost school revenues during the phase-in period. Technically, the state was not responsible for replacement costs after 1996, but the legislature's increased commitment to local school funding has become both a practical and a political reality. The policy effects of Measure 5 are inextricable from those of Measure 50, which Oregon voters passed in 1997 to respond to perceived or real shortcomings in Measure 5. Measure 5 requires all counties to more frequently assess property values. Almost immediately, it was clear that the upward revisions of assessed values would offset the impact of lower tax rates for many homeowners, particularly in the Portland metropolitan areas. Consequently, some owners' tax bills actually increased following the passage of Measure 5. Further, industrial and commercial property owners enjoyed much greater savings due to the accuracy of their assessments. So in other words, anti-tax people tried to get out of paying taxes and shot themselves in the foot, because instead of them just paying less taxes, the value of their property increased even more, which just raised the amount of taxes they paid. It balanced that anyways. So you can see that Oregon's budget problems are structural. They're structural. It's not the problem of the legislature. It's not really the legislature. They're doing what they have to do, right? It's the problem of an initiative passed in the 90s by anti-tax people that's wrecking our stuff. Yeah, I thought Oregon schools would be good, but they're not so good, I guess. And I don't know why. And I thought I couldn't figure out why. And then I'm like, so the state is so Salem has not escaped this dynamic. Hey, Alfonso, what's up? Salem, Oregon hasn't escaped this dynamic. They too are stuck with the inability to raise enough money because of a law passed in the 1990s. That sucks. So to get around it, they're gonna put a tax on the working people. How fucked up is that? No, I think they should take that back, and they should raise property taxes. But that's the problem though, right? Salem is not a town made up of big businesses like Portland. Portland's got super high real estate values. It's got an airport with that's international. It's at the intersection of multiple highways. It's got big ass industry in the city, in its town. Big industry. Portland doesn't have any, or not Portland, Salem. Salem doesn't have any of that stuff. It has a bunch of government workers and then like mom and pop shops hanging out. That's about it. We don't have like a massive industry that you can do a tax base from. We don't have massive commercial projects or massive like residential towers of billionaires that live there. We don't have that. We're not like Portland, dude. So it's where you can eat your money then. If you like, you can't, like Portland, it's pretty obvious, right? They're the ones who passed the law to begin with. So the rich people wouldn't have to pay the taxes associated with their super expensive city. That's why they passed it, but they screwed the rest of Oregon in doing so. It's literally systemic. That's why it's almost up to the legislature to like give Salem money to help out. It's messed up to have to force Salem to tax its workers for the mess up of anti-tax people in the 90s, so rich people in Portland wouldn't have to pay taxes. That's what it comes down to. Why can't the city of Salem pull in enough money? Because of an anti-tax law passed in the 90s. So we're going to tax workers in 2023 to pay for an anti-tax law passed in the 90s to save Portland millionaires some money. Holy F. That's so wrong. That is so wrong. That is not just at all, man. That's not justice at all. That's not justice at all. So, yeah, they're gonna reshuffle. They're gonna eliminate vacant positions in the police and fire department, reshuffling existing staff, and reducing upkeep at city parks. Let's see. Oh, I lost it. I lost what I was looking at. What else is going to get cut? Dropping support of the navigation center in micro shelters, warming shelters, and a safe park. So if we cut our stuff, if we don't pass this bill, if we don't pass this tax, our neighbors are going to have to do that much more contact with the criminal justice system. And the people most at risk are going to be our black, indigenous, persons of color neighbors, people with disabilities, people with mental health challenges. And for them, it's just not a small risk of harm. I think it's a serious risk of harm or death. Turns out that the truth is, if we make this round of tax cuts, in 5 years, we're going to need to make more cuts because the problem isn't going to go away. It's structural. It's a structural problem, she said. So either we find a structural solution, which I think the payroll tax is, or we entertain further cuts 5 years from now. How about we entertain a property tax increase? I know you want to say that property taxes, that it's going to suck to put the cost on property owners, the people that own property. I already can't own a house, like not because I can't afford the property taxes, but because they're too expensive. Like if I get married, I can maybe justify it, right? If I can get like a second part-time income, for sure we're living in a house, right? But that depends on me finding someone who can tolerate me, and I can tolerate them. So yeah, if I'm not gonna get married, then it's not happening. But yeah, where's the money gonna come from? Take it from the working people. I think it's stupid. I think it's a bad idea. It's a bad idea to take it from the working people. I think a better idea would be take it from bigger businesses. I mean, we don't really have businesses. struggling. I think after the people who own property taxes, and yeah, you want to it'll balance. Problem though, right? It's gonna balance out. Happen and you increase the property taxes, and then the value of the property is gonna go down. Get less taxes. So, yeah, I think the governor, the government of Oregon, the state of Oregon, needs to kick down to the capital, help out, because like on the pop like economy, we have to bear the cost of being the, which is not insignificant. Like a lot of people come here to and what else do I got here? Salem payroll attack. Colton says he believes the city made its case that the revenue was needed. This were inevitable otherwise. He pointed to the review by consulting firm Moss Adams on some city functions like human resources and comparable cities. I think that the CFO Josh Eggleston did a good job of saying we're tied with a lot of this. 88% of the general fund budget is 80% of the general fund budget is people, and those people are not at all management, meaning that they're union. And so when you're union, you have a contract, and you can't break that unless you're going to get sued. So alternative measures would be now I'm not saying get rid of unions. That's stupid. Don't get rid of unions. Get rid of unions. You get your money elsewhere. You get your money elsewhere. Dixon says he hopes city staff will update the operations fee for large commercial and industrial clients. So yeah, that's one way, right? Get your big businesses to kick in. And here's where he says that, right? The city is made like me, government workers and teachers. We don't have a massive university like in Eugene, massive businesses like they do in Portland. We're kind of this weird conglomeration of government work, small mom and pop shops, and maybe government and a few other bigger things, but not really. It just isn't there to keep up with it. I haven't heard that there happen at the speed at which Salem is driving toward its fiscal cliff. Going to the legislature, Salem has been trying that for 30 years. So, like, it's awful. Yeah, so you know what? I'm not saying that like I can do better. No. In fact, if you think you can do better, there are 3 vacancies on the Salem Budget Committee in wards 1, 2, and 8. So you want to apply, there's the link. You can go to their website, go to the link, apply. If you want the job, it's yours for the taking if you think you can do better. But so these citizens looked at all the data, they checked it out and said, all right, given what we have, given what we're facing, we think the payroll tax is the best way forward. Otherwise, we're gonna have to either cut them now, like today, or we'll cut them in 5 years. Is what they're saying. Like it's got to even worse in 5 years. You got to take care of it one way or the other. So yeah, it'd be nice if they would ever get rid of this tax. I don't know if they ever will. Maybe they can make it built in. So they say, okay, we'll pass this tax, but it gets revoked the moment the state implements its own solution to take care of, or measures 5 and 47 are revoked or reworked or something, because you got to take care of the problem. That's the root of the problem. problem is in the 1990s, a bunch of fucking tax activists got together and state of Oregon. That's why our schools are fucked up. All fucked up. And why they do it? So that Portland millionaires pay taxes. So I mean, putting a payroll tax on Salem workers is like a band-aid. Sure, right? Sure, it'll take care of the problem right now, and it sucks because you're basically like the can has been kicked down the road for so long that the one who finally picks it up is going to be the worker. It got started so millionaires could save money in Portland, and the people who end up eating it will be the workers, the laborers, who don't own fucking property in Portland. If you want to solve Oregon's problem, you want to look at measure 5 and measure 47. That's the root. That's the structure. If government can't grow, less just. And look at it, right? measure 5 and measure 47 passed in the 90s by Portland millionaires so that they wouldn't have to pay astronomical taxes on their astronomically increased in value properties. I mean, if you're a homeowner, oh, that sucks shit. But if you're a commercial person, yeah, dude, like if you're a business, who like tough shit for you, right? Pay those taxes, man. If you're a big business. Like I think they could have found a way to like make it so that homeowners aren't slammed as hard. But you got to get it from somewhere, and homeowners gotta kick down too, I guess. All right, there's so I don't know the solution other than repeal measure 5 and measure 47 from the 90s, and then in the interim get the state of Oregon, the legislature, to kick down some money to the city of Salem. I mean, there was already like a surplus this year, like not like you don't have the money. Okay, that's one thing I wanted to talk about. That I didn't get to. Another thing I wanted to talk about. The Balkans. The Balkans. Do you know the Balkans? Man, see, this is like you're like what? Huh? Here, let me show you on another map. Okay. Ooh, wee. I have this ginormous map here, right? Okay, so there's Russia. It's ginormous Russia. I found out today that Russia borders North Korea. I did not know that, but Russia shares a border with North Korea. It wraps all the way around China. Realize that. So, like, I know the Japanese are kind of like freaked out by the Russians, and now I know why, because they're right there. They're literally, I mean, they took like 3 islands too they're claiming 3 islands from World War II. I don't know if they took them, but they're claiming them. And like Japan doesn't have a whole lot of land, dude. You can't be losing shit. Like, but I don't know. All right. Anyways, so Russia, the other week or Sunday, I was telling you about how Russia invaded Georgia, took that chunk there, and took a big chunk right there. for itself, and it used information warfare. The first, like, remember I told you in the 80s, Yuri Bezmenov did his spiel and told about like the information warfare, and we all laughed at him like, yeah, whatever. Well, the Russians put that shit into practice in the 90s when they attacked Georgia and took all this big chunk. Then they put it to further use in Ukraine when they took eastern Ukraine and they took Crimea, the Russians. So then they put it to further use when they went to the United States and installed Donald Trump. But that's another story for another time. What I'm focused on is another event that happened in the 90s, which is the Serbia, the what do they call this conflict? Bosnian Serbian conflict. I don't like. So I didn't even know about it. I knew about it. I had no idea where it was or like why it mattered or anything. Well, Italy is like right there, right in the corner. That's Italy. So and what's interesting is Serbia is allied with Russia. I believe Serbia and Russia are allied. So I don't know if Albania is NATO or not, but I know. But Serbia is. I'm pretty sure Serbia is with Russia. So what's the deal there? So Serbia used to go down in here and used to have Kosovo, this chunk inside of it, the whole thing, right? It used to have that too. It used to have. Guy rebelled. Why did they rebel? Because 90% of the people, 9 in 10 are ethnically Albanian and were not ethnically Bosnian or whatever. They're Albanian. So they're Albanian and they didn't, I don't know, they just didn't feel represented by the government here. So they rebelled and they broke off. The big fight between it's a big fight, right? And in the 90s, these guys got their independence. But they're not technically hooked up with Albania to join. I don't think they're joined. They're their own separate country now. I guess you can call it a city-state. Because it's like a city-state, basically. Oh, I guess they have their territory. Anyways. But yeah, that's the deal. And I thought it was taken care of in the 90s, but apparently they're flaring up again. So if you look again now at this map, so it used to be Serbia used to control all of this stuff, even the Kosovo part. But then Kosovo and like became free because they didn't feel Serbia. So I thought that was done. Well, no, I guess now to fight again, and that sucks. Who needs another war in Europe? We don't, guys, don't do that. But yeah, messy. Cassidy Wilson had to flee D.C. for safety after January 6th testimony. Why? Why would a person what they say? Man, that sounds like crazy terrorist stuff, the supporters of Donald Trump. Because basically she's testifying as to what happened on January 6th, how Donald Trump is implicated, or like the leader of it all. Why would his followers like wish her harm? They're bad people, that's why. Okay, what else we got here? I already did that one. China Information War, I did that one. Okay. Oh, shitty. Ah! I'm sleeping. sleeping. I'm in bed. Burn! Oh, he's not burning. Oh, now he's burn! That's right. Burn in the sun. You of the wrath of the daylight. You banished. You're banished from the daylight. That's right. Okay. The last thing I wanted to talk about, where was it at? Jimmy Carter. Jimmy Carter. He turned 99 years old. He turned 99 years old on October 1st. He's a legend. Absolute legend. Great guy. Dude, this thing's like fucked up. Jimmy Carter didn't steal U.S. secrets. Jimmy Carter didn't try to overthrow the U.S. government. Didn't work with Russia in order to win the... Jimmy Carter's a pretty great guy. Happy birthday, Jimmy Carter. Okay. I didn't build anything. I just talked a bunch. But I finished my show. Time for Go Kiddo out. Peace. Stop. Stop.